spoiler warning for episodes 1, 2, 3 of 7 Nights Revolution all throughout the video. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello everybody, my name's Link, here to talk about my first impressions of a Spring 2021 anime. 7 Nights Revolution, Eiyu no Keishosha, is set in a world where eons ago valiant heroes fought against the forces of destruction. While their deeds passed into legends, the power of these heroes was later inherited by successors who fought to protect the world. One day, Faria, a successor of the Seven Knights, saves an ordinary boy named Nemo from the forces of destruction. During the ensuing battle, Nemo summons the power of a hero and becomes a successor as well. However, Nemo's hero is a stranger that is unknown to history, and so, an epic journey where the past and present collide begins. If that doesn't set the mood for this video, I don't know what will. You know when you come to an anime with some sort of expectations, so its subsequent lack of delivery is even more disappointing? Well, that wasn't the case here! Ever since I saw the announcement for the anime, I already had my reservations because whom's the fuck are these people? And digging a bit further into their website made it clear that this isn't going to be a simple one-to-one adaptation of the story the game had. Most notably, the absence of the game's primary leader figure such as Rudy, the actual leader of the Seven Knights, not this pneumonia-sounding bitch, and Evan, the protagonist of the game, or at least for the earlier seasons, are absent from the cast list. Though at the time, I tried to convince myself that maybe they're just surprise twist characters or something that'll come along later in the line. Coming in with the preconceived notion that this will most likely take more on a God Eater type of adaptation where they completely remove the player character who has the personality of a soggy bread and put in their more passionate stand-in. So my expectations were literally lower than nothing, and yet I still came out disappointed. In theory, adding an original character catered to moving the plot forward should work to sell the emotions better and build more organic relations between the cast. But we all know how well that worked out for God Eater, and I'm not getting my hopes up when I look at that wimpy kid Sam's the Diary. Why would I subject myself to this torture, you may ask? Oh, we'll get there. But for now, let's take a step back. The story of the original Seven Knights was pretty standard for the most part. We had the generic good versus evil forces, plenty of political drama and betrayals, and at the center of it all is just a lad trying to go on an adventure with his ragtag team of friends as they move forward from one area to the next to fight the mushroom that insulted them enough.
I will enforce justice!
The anime basically took none of that and set the anime in an era where the titular Seven Knights would be dead. But also, they can't have them stay dead because they need them. So the brilliant idea they came up with was to cloak guard the fuck out of their souls so some kids can wield their powers because apparently they didn't finish their job when they were alive. I'm just... why? Why the skull setting? I know why, I'm just still baffled why they came up with this shit. I know, Mobage stories tend to be a bit bloated and disjointed because it's the Wild West out there, and more often than not, their stories rely on the characters and their power-ups to tempt people to roll for their characters in the gacha, rather than the other way around. Plus, the fact that the Seven Knights story isn't actually over yet, ongoing with 4 seasons down the line, and more characters than they know what to do with.
Deja vu, I just been in this place before. Higher on the street and I know it's my time to go.
So yes, not the best blueprint to adapt a linear anime to, but what it does bring to the table are already established adult characters and far more interesting stakes than what these kids can offer confined in their school. Like for example, Spike is one of my favorite characters, a halfling born from an ice spirit and a human warrior, never belonging to either race. He got his heart frozen by his mother so that he can inherit the throne, but left him unable to feel any emotions. And one of his only true friends was his fellow knight Jave, having met before they were even recruited by Rudy into the Seven Knights, and sharing the burden of not knowing what it's like to fit in because Jave was raised by dragons despite being very human himself. Meanwhile, the stand-in for Spike in the story is a kid that just got angry one time at Nemo for some really minor reason, and he gets swayed by girls praising him. There's a disconnect between who I want to see versus the rando who's trying to be him. It's literally the Gucci versus Walmart meme, and I hate it. To anyone who did come from the game and actually cared about the story and the characters, it might feel alienating and mildly infuriating in my case because I don't really care for the rando, yet they still dangle the actual Spike in front of me. From a marketing standpoint, it might have been genius to get a lot of new people interested in their world and their powers and these legendary entities of the Knights. So people will pick up the game to experience the light versus dark war as mentioned in the story. But that of course hinges entirely on the fact that people will find the show enjoyable enough to check their source material out. The main character is so infuriatingly cliche and one note, it's unbearable. He feels like a robot trying to learn what emotions are, so pathetic and thinks so lowly of himself that when someone tried to bully him, they felt sorry for him. I am not even kidding. But just when the plot demands it, he'll know exactly what to say and what to do. Of course, the same applies when in combat too. He just manages to find a way and excel at fighting even compared to his peers, even with a grand total of 0 training. Because he's just God's favorite or something. Like, I shit you not, the anime is trying to sell the all-mysterious vibe for the hero he got, but it's literally in the credits, and his name is... Like, bitch, they didn't even try, huh? Might as well have called him overpowered or plot convenient at this point. Even the original protagonist, Evan, has more personality than him, and that's saying something. Because as much of a happy-goody two-shoes he is, he at least had consistent characterization and his own goals, with significant character development later on. Meanwhile, Nemo is literally just a device to move the plot forward to... Holy fuck, I just realized it's been 3 episodes and they still haven't conveyed what the fuck they actually want to do with their story. So far, they've just been killing these random but generic looking demon things and that's it. Jesus Christ, there's some hints in the opening that Nemo might go evil or something and oh no. You legitimately cannot pay me to care. Despite my tone, I don't think the anime is terrible. It's just mediocre, which I would argue is even worse. Had this not been connected to Seven Knights, I wouldn't have watched it at all. The animation had some decent times here and there, but by episode 3 it was already looking spotty. I don't really think I need to deep dive into the problems I see and throw out a suggestion on what I think could have improved it like I did with other shows. This anime is simply a B-grade anime and that's it. And I'm not saying B-grade animes are bad. It's just that, for me, the idea wasn't going to work to begin with. I enjoyed the fantastical and ridiculous world Seven Knights had, and I get a school setting of all things. I wanted to see my favorite characters kick ass and take names, and I get some kid that's cosplaying him with only a surface level comparison to him. But hey, apparently my friend saw its promotional video and thought it looked cool. So maybe, if you don't know the original story, you'll appreciate it. Sadly, it's not something I can confirm. To be honest, I don't really care much anymore plot-wise. Like, there were these evil-looking dudes, so I'm guessing much like there's an organization that inherited the heroes, there will likewise be the ones that got the villains. But yeah, I've lost all hope for this anime. I doubt anything it can bring to the table can really wow me. And that leads us to why I'll still be watching this show even if it legitimately frustrates me at times. Because I'm a desperate bitch who loves Spike and Jave way too much. I was their simp before the word simp was coined. The game had an ever-changing meta, so naturally, they would be left behind for newer characters added, but I never removed them from my team. Costumes here have buffs, but I will always go for the ones that make them look the cutest. I shot myself in the foot constantly to have these two on my screen, and I'm willing to spend some of my sanity to watch them badly animated but voiced, even for just a few minutes, if at all. So yeah, I expect to see more of Spike and Jave, no matter how unlikely that is. And I'd find it very cool if you get like sections in the anime dedicated to the past Seven Knights and their escapades. And maybe a little peek into why Rudy wasn't turned into a claw card like the rest of them. I'd also want to hear more about Chris. He always has been the quiet, gloomy type, so I'd find it super interesting if he reminisces or breaks the news as to what happened to Rudy, because these two have a rocky relationship. From childhood friends to rivals to one being manipulated to hate the other, this shit's like straight out of a fanfiction and I'm living for it. One thing I did like though is when the anime made direct reference to the game with how they showed off one of Chris's skill via that one sassy elf. And that tickled my little monkey brain aplenty, so I'd love to see more of that stuff. And that's it for this one, everybody! Drop a comment down below on your thoughts of the anime and if you checked it out. Check out this playlist to see my other series where I review and recommend anime you might not have heard of. Are they hidden gems or do they deserve to fall into obscurity? Let's find out together. And as always, don't forget to leave a thumbs up if you liked the video and consider subscribing for all things weeb and anime. Bye bye!